Hello and welcome to Getting Started with Thinkorswim. My name is James Boyd, not Cameron May, because Cameron May is sick. I know the feeling because I've been sick for the last 2 weeks, and hopefully he did not get what I have. Bless his soul. So, and I'd like to welcome all of you here today. I can only laugh about it because it's the only way I'm getting through it. So hopefully you had a great weekend. We're right back at it. We got Barb Armstrong in the chat, and we welcome her as well. Welcome to all of you, Will, Wiley, Mike, Robert, Helen, and many others. Welcome to all. Now, I heard this class was 90 minutes long, so we got some time here. I'm joking, about 25 minutes. So we want to make sure our time is really spent appropriately. The thinkorswim tool, the desktop version we'll talk about, very important tool. So think about if you were a dentist, if you were a plumber, electrician, think of it as this is your tool of how you're actually trying to execute a service or a product, etc. So having an understanding of this tool, which is the portal or the doorway to the market, is really important. You don't want to be fighting a product and then trying to invest at the same time. Want this thinkorswim platform to feel very comfortable and get to know its features and what it can offer. Now, just real quick as we're getting started, I want to give us a quick reminder that the information here is provided for general informational purposes only. Options carry a high level of risk, not suitable for all investors. Also, Schwab does not recommend the use of technical analysis as a sole means of research. And also remember that the paper money software application is for educational purposes only. Do not be shy about using that paper money platform. That's the way I learned. Well, it was after 7 years I had already started because they didn't have paper money when I started. You're lucky, okay? So some of us learn with real money at the beginning and then paper money later. So let's use that paper money account and get used to that. Remember that investing involves risk, including loss of principal. So what I want to do right now is I want to kind of talk about just briefly, if you had never been on the thinkorswim platform or what does it offer, you could go right to schwab.com. We haven't even logged in. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to where it says accounts and products. Now notice we haven't even logged in yet. Okay. So schwab.com, accounts and products, and you're going to now see where it says thinkorswim trading platforms. Now, if I click on trading platforms, just right there, we're underneath accounts and products, go to thinkorswim trading platforms, click. What you're now going to see is the portal of what platforms do they have. So what you're now going to notice if we scroll down, you're going to see it will say thinkorswim desktop, log in to download the desktop version. This is what we're going to be using here today. And I cannot stress enough. I'd probably say, half of my time that I'm looking at the market, I'm really just using an iPad. Now, it doesn't have to be an iPad. You might be a Samsung person, okay? And so the biggest thing is using, let's say, a phone or a tablet, whatever you got. You can also get that on the App Store or Google Play right there as well. So this is how you just download it. Just click it right there. Now that we have that out of the way, let me actually go to the platform right now. Now, I want to kind of bring out something. If you were to look at different technical indicators, they have things like the McClellan oscillator, the Wilder RSI. Well, we're going to name a certain part of this platform called Boyd's Big Chart. Okay. Historically, it was called Big Chart, but it was different. We're going to call this Boyd's Big Chart. So if you create a technical tool, call it after yourself. That's what the other people did. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I want to go to where it says Market Watch. And then what I'm going to do is I'm under quotes. Now, what I want to do is I want to kind of just real quick spend some time. Now, I would like nothing more that when you looked at the market, you felt very, very comfortable where there was some action in the market. Okay. Now, one of the first questions I always ask myself every day, okay, when I wake up, I always ask myself, okay, am I alive? Am I still above support? Okay, that'd be kind of really important. And the biggest thing I ask myself is, where is their relative strength? Okay, now the biggest thing is when I ask myself that question is, I am looking at this, the RS5 relative strength for 5 days, 10, 21, which was for 1 month, 42 for 2 months, 63 for 3 months. When we say 5, that's like a way to say 1 week. RS10 really is another way of saying 2 weeks, okay? Now, historically on the big chart, we looked for kind of the same idea. Green boxes, yellow boxes, okay, and red boxes. Really what we want to see is these, I would not pay attention to the numbers. The numbers are creating the color of the boxes, but the red is what you would expect, okay? Which, by the way, if you're a bullish investor, you would love to see those boxes on the VIX all red, okay? Now remember, the numbers are creating the color of the boxes. You're going to also see on the Dow Jones, if you take a look at this, it's been green, 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 and then it's all the way, it's been red. So the Dow has been a little softer. If you look at the Russell, okay, green, darker green, and you could probably imagine that that's just a stronger strength, and I'll tell you more about that. Lighter, and then what you're now going to notice is it's been a little softer in the last 5 days. You look at the SPX, you're going to see that that has been a little pocket that's kind of been underperforming relative to itself. The only area that's really kind of shown some strength has been yours truly, the NASDAQ itself. Now, by the way, the SPX, depending upon the strength, is kind of like neutral, but the only one that's really been the strongest is really the NASDAQ. Now, this is kind of interesting because when you look at this tool on the thinkorswim platform, it could be for like you're watching market sentiment. It could also be that you're watching your current portfolio. It could also be that you're looking for, let's say, new setups, all of the above. Now, the first question we always ask ourselves every day is, where is the relative strength? Second question we ask ourselves is, where's the portfolio invested? And is it in the pockets of relative strength? Now, there might be some investors here that say, James, I don't really care about relative strength. I'm investing for income. Understood. I think the investor would at least probably like some areas that might still be trending too, so you could try to get some price appreciation. I don't think it would hurt, okay? Now, what I want to do is I want to share these with you nice and slow, okay? And let me just share that with you right there. Now, this first one right here is really the RS5. Now, the biggest actually thing that we want to do, now we're going to call this Boyd's Big Chart. Now, since Ian's here or Helen's here, we could call it Helen's Big Chart. So you create an indicator, you can call it what you want. Now, here's the deal. This is something that we created over time, and we're technicians. We can call it what we want, okay? Little fun with us. Now, what you're now going to notice is that RS5. How do you put that on? Go to Setup, Open Shared Item, okay? So Setup, Open Shared Item, just copy and paste that back in, okay? So that's not that bad. Once we go to Preview, it's going to ask you what do you want to call it. We're just going to call it RS5. Now, here's the deal. You do one of these, you can do any of them, okay? Now, what you're now going to notice is when we look at a list, does it have to be in the indexes? Nope. It could be a list of futures. It could be a list of currencies. It could be a list of indexes, sectors, other indexes like NASDAQ, S&P 100. It could be a personal watch list. It could be a watch list that you're making. It could be all the above. So we could import that. And then what happens is when you right-click on this column heading, Customize, you're now going to see that on the left-hand side, what you called it, RS5, should be in that list. And it's labeled by what you call it, of course, RS5. And if you want to add that to one of the column headings, just add it here to the right. And you just do that 5 times. That's really not that bad. And let me just give you the first 2 initially, okay? So if I give you these, and let me share. And by the way, why would I want the 5? Well, the thing is, we want to see the relative strength over time. Now, by the way, don't worry about getting all these right now. I'm going to put these in the description on the video, okay? And now what you're going to see is, and I'll put these, if you want to capture them, feel free to do that. Now, our goal right now is we want to see where we're seeing investing opportunities right now. And we also, for example, want to ask ourselves the question is, does our portfolio have any of those pockets of strength? Okay. So I sent to you in the chat 5, 10, 21, 42, 63. And in the description of this video, we will have Boyd's Big Chart. We'll have the scripts for those column headings. We showed you how to put one on. If you put one on, you could put any of them on. Okay. Now, what we want to do here is I want to now go to, now remember, the nice thing about this is we want to simplify. We want to find where there's pockets of strength. If I hit the drop down and I went to, let's say, the sectors just briefly, pull that up. If I said, where are the pockets of strength, sectors wise, if it's taking longer than 30 minutes, it's probably too long. And if we, for example, looked at this, sorry, I got two platforms open, so it's taking some bandwidth, and I'm doing a class, so it's actually taking bandwidth. We'll actually see that technology, keep an eye on consumer services, is also near the top as well. And then we're going to see that if we look at this as well, it's going to be, load. It will be the discretionaries. And I'm going to pull one thing off for just a sec because I got that right behind, okay? Let me take that off. Got two platforms going at the same time. So when that loads, what you're now going to see is technology. Let me repeat that. Consumer services, okay? And we also see, for example, discretionaries. So those are the pockets of where we're really seeing the strength. Now, I want to kind of bring up something just real quick. What happens if we look at this and we see financials that is at a low? Does that mean it's horrible? No. It just means it's underperforming the S&P 500. You'll notice that real estate is doing that as well. They could still be having positive returns, but if the S&P 500, which is what we're benchmarking to, is really, really strong, something has to be underneath the index, okay? So you got to kind of at least think, what has the index been doing? If the index has been up a lot, something is going to be above that index, something is going to be below. And you're going to see that there's some indexes like, let's say, financials, okay, which is down the last week. So's industrial, so's base materials, so's utilities, so's healthcare. But the only pockets of where we're really seeing the strength as I get that bandwidth back, you're seeing those three: discretionary, consumer services, and let's say technology. So here's kind of the fun thing is, if someone were to ask me, how many searches do I run a day? 0. How many searches a week do you run? 0. This is a way to search. You're searching just based on relative strength. So if the investor look at this, they'd probably be looking at the NASDAQ. They'd probably be looking at tech, discretionaries, and communication services, which are also technology stocks. Now let's kind of have a little fun here, okay? If we go to, let's say, the public list and go to Dow Jones Industrial Average, okay? And then what it's going to do is it's going to, same thing, try to find out where's that money flowing to. Now, the biggest actually thing about this is when we do this, and I might change something, you're going to see that when you look at the Dow list, the list of stocks that are in, let's say, the top 30, or excuse me, the list of stocks where they have relative strength, let's say green, man, it is a small list. Okay, and we'll wait for that to load. Sorry about that. Stocks, and I'll just speak to them. Microsoft, Boeing, Amazon, Apple, Walmart. Those are the stocks that, for example, are still quite strong. Now, when you set this up the way that you want it, you don't have to, for example, come back every time and set this up. Quick reminder, you can go up to the very top right where it says setup, and you can go right to where it says save workspace as. So if you have the layout that you want, right? If you have that layout, you can just say, hey, and I just call mine, I'll save this. I call it JB 2024, okay? So now if I save this, go right back to setup, and you're going to see there's 2024 JB. So the biggest thing about this is, and I just put that there, you can have different views of what you want. So if you're an income investor or fundamentalist, you could have some views of what you like to see on the column headings. If you're more of a technician, okay, you're probably using something more like this. Now, the other thing is when we look at the RS5 in the last week or two, where's the pocket of strength coming from? Well, we did an example on Microsoft here today. It's been in the green. We look at Boeing. Again, we understand where it's been. Okay, we talked about that earlier. Boeing has also been in the green, and it's been in the green the last 2 months relative to the S&P 500. So a reminder, when we say RS, relative strength compared to what? Well, it's the S&P 500, okay? Now, what you're going to notice is Amazon's also right there. So is Apple, so is NVIDIA, and Walmart, okay? Now, what you're going to notice is whatever, if we have the relative strength 5 and 10, let's say green, there's a correlation here. What's that correlation? Well, the stocks that, for example, if those are strong, if the RS 5 and 10, they're strong, you're probably going to see a strong weekly performance. And we would say, well, duh, okay? Because if they're strong, obviously the the percentage movement must be decent to make them strong, of course. There's also a correlation to, let's say, what the trend is, okay? And you'll see that stocks with kind of strong relative strength tend to have what we call like a trend 3, which is a stock above both moving averages. And if you get a strong stock, you probably have a couple stocks that are showing bullish bounces, also known as cohold. Well, of course, there's strength. It's probably going up. And if it's also showing strength, it could be also making, let's say, 20 to 55-day highs or breakouts. And if those breakouts are really leading to trends, you could see crossovers. And if that trend is really continuing to the upside, you're going to see that we probably have a lot of green column, a lot of rows that are green because the moving averages are green. So it all comes back to what the relative strength is. Now, here's what I've learned in investing. Some of the most successful people I've met with investing, they tend to only do 2 or 3 things very well. And they're focusing on those 2 or 3 things over and over and over again. People that I see struggle, they're all over the place. Okay, so this is going to be some central common denominator that when we look at examples to trade and practice, it's really coming back to the theme of where's the pockets of relative strength. Now, if you're an income investor and say, look, bulk what I like to do is investing for income, fine. But this might be a way to, let's say, complement, okay, that portfolio. Now, what I want to do is I want to go to a bigger list. Last week, I shared with you really like how to break down the NASDAQ 100. And what you're going to notice is we just took the NASDAQ 100 stocks and broke them down into 50 stocks. Now, I've been doing this for 25 years. And this is something I do on a daily basis. And I'm monitoring. When I'm finding examples as a teacher and educator, this is what I'm looking at, okay? And I'm showing you exactly what I'm looking at. And so if you looked at our recent examples, you would realize that they come from this. There's no magic tricks. Okay, I'm not David Copperfield, for crying out loud. Here's the deal. When we look at, for example, like on the NASDAQ, the 100 list, the first part of the list, you will see that Tesla has also been quite strong. You're going to also see that the other one that we've seen today that's also been quite strong is the TTD, DXCM. Netflix, there's Microsoft again. And you're going to see another stock that's trying to reverse as well is DLTR. And don't be surprised when we say Casco, okay? So the major point that we really want to bring out is how do we find stocks that are trending? How do we do that? Well, we just put the relative strength columns on the heading, okay? Now, what I want to kind of do is vary this because I know many of you are going to ask a question such as, I want to run a search. Fine, let's have it your way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to scan for just a moment, okay? Let's go scan, and let's say we do a very basic search, okay? And let's say that we just put in a stock price of 40 bucks, and let's say I'm looking for a volume of, let's say, 1 million. And I want to see anything that is in, let's say, the S&P 500. Fine. Well, if we did that and I say scan, how many stocks are going to come back? There's going to be 200 stocks that come back. That's going to be a lot of them to search. If we see that, let's bump up this price a little bit more and I'll show you what we're going to do. Well, if I bump it up to, let's say, $80 and say scan, how many do we have? It's still 130. Well, geez, if you got more and more stocks coming back, bump up the filters. Scan, and all of a sudden now, a list of 50 for us, it would be the high. So if I said, hey, I want to look at something different. I don't want to look at Dow stocks like James. I don't want to look at NASDAQ. Okay, I know they're going up and I haven't looked at them, but let's say the investor, I just want to do something different. Okay, fine. But you better know why you're doing that. Okay. Our goal, what we do as a teacher, is we want to find liquidity. The reason why we look at Dow 30, NASDAQ, S&P 100, that's where the liquidity tends to be, and there's certain requirements to be on those indexes that cause sometimes there to be liquidity. Okay, and that liquidity can cause price movements and or trend. Now, what we're going to do is I said, hey, $80, 2 million, scanning the S&P 500, and I got 53 stocks back. Now, so if you're someone that, for example, that says, James, I would really like to create my own watch list on a daily basis. Now, I had that feeling at one point in my life, and I like to do that, and then you decide what you like to do. I'm going to just label this as number one for list one, save. Now, I'm going to go back to Market Watch. I'm now going to go to the personal list, and we just called it one. Now, what it's going to do is any list that we make, it's going to pull back up and screen those stocks based on RS5 to 63. Now, remember, what is really the goal, right? Well, a goal is we're trying to find something that over time we call it the big chart, Boyd's big chart, is that over time that we're really seeing that there's strength over different time periods. Now, I kind of think of this like college, okay? What was your grade point average in freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, senior year? So notice those are all different time periods. If we get multiple different time periods, we can kind of get a trend of, hey, could it continue to trend if it was doing well? It's not guaranteed that student can, for example, stop going to class, not even do his homework anymore, and just all of a sudden crash his GPA. The exact same thing with the relative strength. Now, what you're going to notice is when we pull this up in the list that we made, there it is, okay? And we could see those stocks that, for example, have pretty strong trends over a period of time, okay? And what you're going to notice is if you looked at this list of, let's say, 50 stocks, there's only a list of maybe 15 total that really are green. And the other ones, not so much, okay? And so that's what's kind of nice is it's focusing you, or you can consider focusing on those areas that have strength. If we said how many of these stocks in the list of 50 really have multiple periods of green in a row, now you're down to a list of 5 or 8 stocks. So many investors want something like a filter that doesn't lead to more, but kind of like leads to like less and focused examples of what they're trying to find. Now, someone might ask a question such as, well, could I just look for a stock that is showing strength in the 5 or 10-day period and run that on the search? Well, I would think of it like the way we did it. Run the scan that you want to do based on price and volume and whatever else, and then put it in a list and then visually see where there is the strength, okay? Now, the biggest thing is, question is the Save Workspace available in paper money and real money? Yeah, okay, sure is. Now, the other thing, what you'll notice is if you bring up, let's say, a watch list, and I'll just kind of bring this up right now. On the watch list, this is a watch list that is right on the thinkorswim mobile. Now, the thinkorswim mobile will also have the RS5 and the 10. It's not color-coded, but I'll see the numbers. So if I click on RS, let's say 100, the RS5, click on that heading, it's going to rank which stocks even on mobile. Now, by the way, it's not just on a tablet. It's also on your phone. So if you're sitting at a dentist office or whatever, you could see it right on your phone and you could bring up any list, okay? So that's there as well, on a phone, on a tablet, and also on the desktop. So if you kind of thought about, if someone said, I don't have the relative strength 5 and we're coming into Christmas, it would be nice to shove this in the stocking, okay? Because this is a foundational concept to find where are there trends and momentum and where are there not. Now, this is also a litmus test to like, what are you invested in and what is the market showing right now? That's very important. Now, remember, these relative strength columns link to 1 week or 1 month performance. It links to trend. It links to hold or bullish bounces or breakouts or moving average crossovers, etc. If we get that right, there's a greater chance that we can see those trends and the setups the investor is looking for, which is probably why they're using the platform to begin with. Okay, so think of these column headings like the way to search or scan and assess sentiment in the market on indexes, sectors, or any list or current portfolios that you have. If I went back to this right here and said, could you show me the current account positions? If I had a list of stocks in this big money portfolio, okay, it would list my stocks and options, and it would show me those stocks in that list as well. That's kind of nice too. All right, I'm out of my time here. Your homework assignment is I want you to, I shared those links in the chat. I will also put those in the description of this video. Your assignment is to make sure that they're on your Market Watch tab and start tracking those on a daily basis to see where there is money flowing, okay? Which is always the question. And then what I want you to do is on a repeated basis, daily basis, use the thinkorswim platform, track where that money is flowing, and then ask yourself the question, what am I invested in compared to what the market is currently showing? Thank you, Barbara, for answering those questions in chat. And also remember that this tool is always evolving. Today we talked about Boyd's Big Chart, a little fun there. And that was created by myself, and I wanted to share that with you. It came from an old idea of the big chart, and I just kind of customized it to our liking. And so if you create a technical indicator like many other professionals out there, McKelhell Oscillator, RSI Wilder, you can call it what you want. And that's what we did here today. A little fun here today, a little activity. Now remember, the information here is provided for general informational purposes only. Remember that investing involves risk, including loss of principal. I gave you a homework assignment. Make sure you go out and practice that, okay? And make sure you start to watch that. And what do you notice each day? Does it build your confidence? Are you in those areas of strength? Continue to watch that and practice that. You'll get better as you practice it more. Stay tuned for our next webcast coming up right at the top of the hour. Thanks to all of you, and thanks to Barb as well. With that said, take care, and I'll see you back tomorrow morning as I teach at 11 a.m. Eastern. Take care. Bye-bye.